These 7 streets by 3 streets plus North Park and South Park made up my entire world.
This hill was made to create and bring forth great leaders of the 21st century.
Here we are living in northeastern Ohio, living in a completely segregated community, going to an integrated school.
Yeah, I do feel that this project is important to preserve the history of the Heights, and I'm hoping that the youngsters, the youth involved in making this project might be taking some journal notes of their own for the future.
You know, don't think of the Twinsburg Heights as just a little poor little neighborhood, because it's not. We are rich. We're rich in soul, and I just want people to know that.
I want people to see the benefits of this part of Twinsburg. Growing up, people would say, it's scary back there. And now I go, what are you scared of?
It's important because a lot of people don't even know about Twinsburg. Only time is Twin today.
It's actually, geographically, it's higher than all the other places around. That's why they call it the Heights.
In my mind, had it not been for the talent, the time, and the resources of the people of Twinsburg Heights, this entire region would not have benefited. We grew athletes, we grew scholars, we had elected officials who did a lot of great work to help build and grow this greater Twinsburg, Summit County community.
Yeah. And this, sir, is?
Mr. Harley.
Mr. Harley.
What's your name?
Jazz, nice to meet
Okay, Jazz.
interviewing.
Where did Harley Daddy at?
I think he's in Cleveland somewhere.
Named Dad. I haven't seen him. That's the only 2 schools he had. It's across the...
People to know from the documentary. It's not just what we have to
That's it.
Well, my thing is, how far back do you go? To start off, my mother and father were divorced and whatnot, and so after staying with an uncle and aunt like this, my father decided to move us out of Cleveland, and so he sent us to Twinsburg Heights here, a place that I didn't know anything about, never heard of it. It was just a place until I got here. I more or less fell in love with this place, and it's a place, I don't know how you kids feel, but it's a place like, you've never been in a place like this before.
How long have I lived in the Heights? 61 years.
My parents came from Furman, Alabama in the mid-1940s.
I moved to the Heights in 1938.
And I graduated from schools in Twinsburg system, 1959.
Our family moved out in the Twinsburg area in 1939.
I have lived here all my life, ever since I was a little girl.
Well, my family came, uncles and aunts, they was here in the 40s.
When were you born and why did you move here?
Well, I was born in Cortland, Alabama. I came here in 49, December 49.
Twinsburg Heights, as we referred to it, was almost a carbon copy of the South. People came from the South, they were not comfortable living in the city, so they moved here where they could have garden, and some of them had livestock.
This was initially a farmland that a gentleman had years ago. And he had some convictions concerning minorities. They wouldn't let them into this area. So this farmer donated all this acreage up here called the Heights, and he donated it to the people and helped build a church. That was Mount Olive Baptist Church. It was based upon a man having a heart, and it was based around religious freedom and religious liberty.
Rolling. Action.
So, Grandma, over the summer, we're doing a documentary about the Heights and the project, and we wanted you to tell about the history of the Twinsburg Heights and your experience.
First of all, I want to go back to the time when my parents came here, which was your great-grandmother, and my grandfather, yes. They all came here from South.
Grandmother, Annabelle Mix, that was one of the first families to come to Twinsburg. And they purchased this land from Mr. Brady. And then that made my grandmother, that was her daughter, that landed them here. So that's how we got here.
Hi, Mom.
Hey, Daddy.
Rodney and Yvonne is here.
Hello there, Mother.
And Carla and Lisa's here, and they're doing the filming of Twinsburg Township. Mom, why did you move here? Why did you and Dad move here in Twinsburg Township from Oakwood?
The Heights up here.
We came to Ohio when I married in July the 8th, 1953. We left Alabama on our way to Ohio. 2 days later, which was the 10th, Dad and I settled in Oakwood with Mom and Dad, Willie Monroe, and the rest of the family was living in Twinsburg. We went out to visit Twinsburg, and we liked it so much better than Oakwood, and we set up residence out there, rented first in December the same year of 1953.
You remember the church y'all went to? I mean, he came to when he heard about it. Was it Mount Olive?
Mount Olive Baptist Church, yes.
Okay.
On Street there.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's how it happened, folks. They heard about Mount Olive Church out here. And they came out to the church and liked the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mom.
And we attended the same church, Robert, your dad, and I, and we joined it also, joined Mount Olive Baptist Church.
Thank you, Mom. Appreciate it.
Some people die his word.
I think people moved here so that they could have freedom and autonomy. I remember headlines in the paper, like for a city like Cleveland, there were boundaries that sort of confined people to certain neighborhoods.
My family initially moved up from Birmingham, Alabama to Cleveland, Ohio. That's where my parents were raised. And when my grandmother was older and her children were adults, they moved out to Twinsburg. So my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my mother moved out to Twinsburg over on North Park. And then that kind of started the migration of the rest of my family from Cleveland to Twinsburg Heights. I mean, if I had to guess, it wouldn't shock me if I had 30 different family members who have lived in the Heights at some point in time. And still now, we still have the majority of my family lives in the Heights.
So a lot of my family lives in the Twinsburg Heights community. My great-grandmother lived there. My grandmother on my mother and father's side lived there. My dad still lives there. I have brothers and sisters who grew up in the community too. And of course, cousins, uncles and aunts.
There was a sense of family. that existed. And the reason that it did exist was because we were so insulated and insular from the rest of the community that surrounded us that we had to kind of take care of one another. On the street that I lived on, 3 of my brothers, my mother's brothers, who had come north from Alabama, all lived on the same street.
And this is common for many families in the Heights. We come from working class backgrounds, so the way you make it day to day is through that family. It's really that village mentality. So if my family didn't have the car and one aunt did, she was the person who kind of did the carpooling, or if we had the food, then that's where you went to go eat. And I think that's kind of was the communal way you got by in my neighborhood. Not just for my family, but I know a lot of my friends who I grew up with, you leaned heavily on your aunts and cousins to make it to the day to day.
Every street has an awesome name of a great college and biblical colleges.
All of our streets were named after colleges. And Oxford, then the next one was Cambridge, Eton, Rugby, Bucktown, Case, and Stanford. They're all college streets, and I thought that was unique in the fact that I don't even know how the names came about, but
Who named it?
yeah, who did that? Yeah.
That's a history that we never knew.
No, never did know that.
I would like to find out.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
So, Mom, tell us more about your family.
Wow. I love my family. I'm one of 12 children. I'm second to the youngest. My mom and my dad, and my mom had 12 children. My family's from Crawfordsville, Georgia, and my father had a business down there. He was a sawmill worker, and so he owned that business. And back then, African Americans couldn't own their own business back in the South. And so what they did, they threatened my father and told him, you either shut your business down or we're gonna come after you. And so at that time, he had just got a Ford truck. And so he turned his Ford truck in and he came up to the north to have a better life with he and my mom.
Our first real member was Mother Mamie Peak, and she's the one that she had 12 children. And one by one, her children start coming to church and they start getting saved one at a time. And some of them were our age, my age, and some of them were older. It was just her, and we just persevered. Back in those days, I remember she showed me how to start a coal fire in a stove. Yeah. It was in the middle of the congregation. Everyone else in Akron had gas, forced hot air, but we had a coal furnace, but we had Jesus. That's all that counts.
Not even making an effort, I'm going for
What made the Heights unique
Because of what it was and where it was. That's what made it unique. It was a settlement inside of a settlement, because Twinsburg was a little place and Twinsburg Heights was its own little small entity there. That's why we had our little grocery stores and everything was there that we wouldn't really need per se. We'd come down Twinsburg for other stuff, but it was home is what it was. You didn't have to worry about locking your doors at nights. And I grew up, still have trouble locking doors, you know, I'm 72 years old, because of how I grew up, you know, I'm just not used to those things. Everything was free and open and trusting. We had a lot of trust in the people around you, you know. That's something that they need to have, I think, more. To know your neighbors, where you can talk to your neighbor freely, you know. Hey, how you doing? And spend some time with conversation with them afternoon. It don't have to be like a lot of your, I would say, modern folk. They live inside of a house. They have a beautiful home, beautiful yard. They pull in the garage from the car, they close the door, and you see them the next day to get ready to go to work, you know. That's isolation to me, you know. So we didn't have those big car garages or anything like that, all the cars in the yard. But people talked and communicated. I guess communication would be one of the biggest things that you can get out of a little place like that.
The Gaskins, they used to have a corner store. We could go up there and buy candy for a nickel.
Then we had the little small business people, like the candy apple man and the candy apple lady, the ice cream man, the sweet potato pie lady, you know, different people that sold and made stuff.
Center used to be down there, and they ain't doing nothing for that road now, but they goes back there. Place look pretty. They done tore everything down back there, but place still the same. They used to play ball back there. Yeah, all that. We had a good ball club. Yeah, we had a good ball. John Curry, all of y'all. Yeah. Old man Green coming around there. Ice cream. He made that ice cream. He made it homemade. We don't got no more homemade ice cream.
We didn't go to the store. We had a milkman that would come and deliver the milk, and the sweet man would, I'm not sure, remember what he delivered. Y'all remember what he delivered? I just remember the sweet man. We called him the sweet man, and he come in his old truck, chocolate balls. And the egg man would deliver the eggs, and like I said, I really don't understand how they got up here because we didn't have streets. I just remember mud was everywhere.
We had nightclubs here. We had an actual country club right on the other side of Hatton Road. During my years, it was called the Pine Crest Country Club. And during those years, some of the bigger acts from Cleveland would come out here and perform. The OJs and Brooke Benton and those folks. And we'd have audiences, black audiences from Akron and Cleveland that would come out and have food with us, have drinks with us. Of course, I wasn't drinking at that time.
I like that we had the bars. I loved going dancing. I didn't like to drink, so I loved to go dancing. So that's one of the fond memories.
Yeah, we had a church and a bootleg on every street just in Twinsburg. So it was interesting times out here. Some of the churches are still there, and on each corner on each street out there, I think there's still a church just about every street but one out there.
Heavenly Father, Father, we come to this your altar this morning. Father, asking, Father, that you lead and guide us, Father, along the path, Father, that you have provided light for us to walk on. Father, we come to you this morning, Father, in humility of spirit. Father, on bend knee. Father, to ask you, Father, that if you would remove the things, Father, that hinder us.
Well, I I chose to participate in this documentary because I felt that it's very important that people learn about Twinsburg Heights.
Who was the most influential interview subject and why?
I like Miss Stella White because she had lots of like detailed information, and like it was very interesting and entertaining to listen to her story. I enjoyed like being a director and saying sound and camera and slate and action. Sound, camera,
Rolling.
slate.
Stella White, scene 11, take 1.
How long have you been gardening?
How long have I been gardening? I've been gardening probably since I was about 10 years old with my mother and father now.
What are your most cherished plants?
My most cherished plants are plants that people give me. Like on the front, you will see I have a rose bush that my mother had. And my mother's been gone 10 years, so the rose bush is probably about 15 years. And then Mrs. Tate, she had gave me some ferns. So those are another cherished. It's plants that people give me.
Why do you feel doing a documentary about this neighborhood is important?
Twinsburg Heights and Twinsburg as a whole has come a long way. For people to learn that Twinsburg is not like they see now, that we had to struggle, like to talk about the struggles in the South. We struggled here to get where we are today.